Guards from Florida's Dade Correctional Institution will not face any charges after an inmate died after being locked in a scalding hot shower for 2 hours. Now, Darren Rainey was the inmate who died, and he did suffer from schizophrenia. Apparently, he has been in prison since June of 2012 on a cocaine possession conviction. So he's in there for possessing coke. That's it, okay. So he does suffer from schizophrenia, and apparently he had soiled himself. And as a punishment, the guards decided to put him in a shower and lock him there for 2 hours. Now those guards won't face charges, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But first, let me fill some of the details in for you. So Darren Rainey, an inmate at the Dade Correctional Institution in South Florida, was serving a prison sentence for cocaine possession in June of 2012 when guards took him out of his cell, forced him into a shower stall and locked the door. They turned the water on scalding hot, possibly as high as 180 degrees, then walked away. Rainey, a 50-year-old with schizophrenia, could be heard screaming, "I can't take it anymore," a fellow inmate would later say. Now, to clarify something, that graphic mentioned that the temperature could have been as high as 180 degrees. That was reported by The New Yorker, but an investigation found that the temperature in the shower went up to 160 degrees, okay? So it's still insanely hot and can do serious damage to someone, but the prosecutors argue that there was no evidence that the shower was that hot, just that the shower can get that hot.
Okay, so let me further clarify. That 160-degree reading was taken 2 days after the guy died. So they had an opportunity to turn down the temperature. Okay, so we don't know if it was always set at 160 or they turned it down to 160. Now remember, they killed someone there. That's my opinion, apparently not the opinion of the prosecutors who are like, oh, that was great. He just magically died in that shower. I don't know how he died. You have no evidence. I have the evidence that he's dead. Anyway, I'll get to that in a second. So 160 degrees, which by the way is, even if you just take that temperature, is 40 degrees hotter than water allowed by state laws. They say if you get to 120, that is scalding hot, and you're not allowed to have it that hot because it will burn human beings. At a minimum, they had at 160 degrees, 40 degrees hotter than that. You could brew tea in that kind of temperature, and then they left him in there for hours and hours. And one of their excuses was, we would come back every half an hour and check. But you'll check to see if he's dead yet. Oh, he's not dead yet. Let's leave him in there for longer and let's come back later. So I think that there is, other than the cops, there's a real villain in this story.
Yeah, it's the guards. It's the guards there who wanted to punish him because he had defecated on himself. But according to the Washington Post,
I'm with you. Yeah. They're huge villains, the guards I'm talking about. But the one I'm mainly referring to is the Miami-Dade State Attorney, Catherine Fernandez-Rundle, who said she cleared all 4 guards. And she said there's no evidence of wrongdoing.
It's insane.
No evidence of wrongdoing? No evidence of wrongdoing. The guy's skin melted off of him.
So let me give you more details on that. So the Washington Post reported on this as well. Derek Hawkins writes, skin had reddened, begun to peel off, flecks of it floating next to him. A sweeping investigation by the Miami Herald, which reported that Dade corrections officers had rigged the shower to punish inmates who misbehaved. So apparently this was a systemic thing. This happened regularly. The paper also reported that Dade guards would douse inmates with chemicals, starve them, and force them to fight.
I see no evidence. I'm gonna say the guards are always right and the cops are always right and the system is always right. I see no evidence. If I don't look for evidence, I won't see it. I think Catherine Fernandez-Rundle should immediately be fired by her voters in the very next election. I mean, because these prosecutors, they're friends with the cops. They work with the cops. They work with them every single day. We can't have the local prosecutors prosecuting the local cops or guards, okay? We've got to have a federal body doing it. We got to fix the system overall. And for her to turn around and say, oh yeah, my friends here in power, I see no evidence. I mean, even though paper after paper reports the dousing with the chemicals, the torture, and they burned this guy alive, and he is dead. He's dead. I don't see any evidence.
No, what's crazy is that, of course, they have to find excuses for why he died. They have to make some sort of justification and place the blame on him rather than the guards who put him there, right? And so let's go to graphic 10. Rainey, the report said, died of a combination of factors, including complications of his schizophrenia, an undiagnosed heart disease, and confinement in a shower. No, he died because you locked him in a shower with scalding hot water for 2 hours straight and completely ignored his cries for help. That's exactly what happened. Someone's skin doesn't just like peel off on its own just because they're in the shower. It doesn't work that way unless the shower is incredibly hot. How do you sit there and allow someone to die in such a torturous way, even if you have no empathy for inmates whatsoever? This was not a violent criminal. This was someone who suffered from schizophrenia and was imprisoned for cocaine possession. Cocaine possession. How many white Americans are addicted to heroin right now and are overdosing or ruining their lives because they're addicted to it, right? Do we criminalize them? Of course we don't criminalize them. We treat them with empathy because they have a problem and they need help. But when it comes to this case, oh hell no, it's a black schizophrenic man. Let's put him in prison and torture him to death because he had cocaine possession.
So let me break it down, excuse by excuse. First of all, what the doctors describe what happened to his skin as a condition called slippage, when your skin slips off of you because you're basically being boiled alive. Now, their excuse for that was, well, when the medics were moving him, then his skin might have fallen off then. And why do you think his skin would fall off then when the medics were moving him? Maybe because you put him in scalding hot water for 2 hours. The prosecutor wrote, the evidence fails to show that any correctional officer acted in reckless disregard of Rainey's life. None of them showed any reckless, not even murder, not homicide, any recklessness as they boiled him alive for 2 hours, and he's screaming, according to the other inmates, quote, I can't take it no more. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. I can't take it, I can't take it, I can't take it. And they would check back with him every half an hour to see if he was dead or not, and at the end they came back like, oh, he is dead. So, but there's no recklessness there. That's just is that what normal guards are doing in South Florida? Because we ought to know. If your prosecutors in Miami-Dade are saying, yeah, it doesn't matter what the charge is. This is cocaine possession, it could have been marijuana possession. It doesn't matter, you wind up in a Miami-Dade prison and your life is in danger and we celebrate it. We say, oh yeah, we'll do whatever we want to you. And then we'll have a prosecutor who's our friend tell us that she sees no recklessness at all. Yeah. Now, the three things that he could have died from. So one is the schizophrenia. I'm not a doctor, I'm not gonna get into how you could or couldn't die from schizophrenia alone. I don't even know what that means, okay? But let's talk about the schizophrenia as to what got him in there. Now, if you're in the audience and you're thinking, man, this guy smeared the feces all over, I wouldn't wanna deal with that if I'm a cop. I hear you, but might that not show that he's not mentally healthy? Mm-hmm. Like, wouldn't a person who has like 1 degree of empathy go, oh Jesus, this guy's obviously sick. And we have to have a system to deal with people who are sick, because he's not the only guy who's schizophrenic or has other mental issues that are in prison. A lot of people wind up in prison because they have those issues in the first place. So now we can have trained nurses deal with them. They do that in other situations. Or we can say, let's torture him and see every once in a while if we've murdered him yet, because he inconvenienced me with his illness. And then later, I'll blame that illness on him and say, well, he died because of his illness. An undiagnosed heart condition, almost in every cop report after they kill someone. It could have been a heart condition, it could have been undiagnosed, it could have led to the death, it could have been. Now, do you think that even if he had an undiagnosed heart condition, it might have been triggered by the fact that you boiled him alive for 2 hours? Might that have been a contributing factor? And then finally, they're decent enough to say confinement in the shower might have played a role, but no one's guilty of anything. The guards are perfectly free to go. And so now you know, even if the smallest crime there is, you wind up in a Miami-Dade prison, they can murder you, boil you alive, torture you, and the prosecutors aren't gonna do a damn thing to them because they don't serve you, they don't serve the citizens, they serve the people in power.
And it not only serves as an injustice for the victim in this case, it will be an injustice for anyone who is under the watch of these guards at this correctional center, because this not only emboldens them, it puts other inmates' lives at risk. And so look, I get it. There are Americans out there who don't care about the lives of these inmates, right? They don't actually look at the correctional system as a way of rehabilitating people. But think about how many people aren't in prison right now who enjoy drugs like marijuana or cocaine. Are they violent criminals? Do they deserve to be in prison? Do they deserve to have their lives taken by these guards? Okay, think about all the people out there who have mental illnesses that go untreated because they don't have the resources to treat them. And if they commit a crime, regardless of how violent or nonviolent it is, they could end up in prison and be treated like this and have their lives taken from them. That's the country that we live in right now. Land of the free, country that imprisons more people than any other country in the world.
Are you sick of the mainstream media? Then I got good news for you. We're going to hire some investigative reporters and we're going to go house. We're actually going to investigate what's happening in this country and stand up for you guys. Help us do it. Go to tytnetwork.com/go. If everybody watching this video just gives a little bit of money, we'd have plenty to hire those investigative teams and unleash them on the country.